What is going on, everybody, and welcome to the Washington Brawl Podcast. I am your host, Parker Hamlet, joined by my co-host, Washington Brawl Insider, Owen Smith. What's up, Owen?
Nothing much, my man. How about you?
Doing pretty well. We are, of course, brought to everybody by the Brawl Network and Manscaped. Manscaped has been providing the top-of-the-line male grooming tools to help give you maximum performance with the brand new Lawnmower 3.0, which is simply the best hygiene tool for the modern man. The Lawnmower 3.0 has a perfect ceramic blade with skin-safe technology to avoid any unnecessary nicks on your sack. I used it today, actually came out unscathed, nice, got a little flashlight on it, can't hate on that. Also waterproof. Great. If you order the Performance Package 3.0 today, you not only get the Lawnmower 3.0, but you also get the Crop Preserver and the Crop Reviver. The Crop Preserver is perfect anti-chafing deodorant for your balls. That worked wonders for me yesterday on my run, a couple miles down the road. The Crop Reviver is a spray-on toner that is made with soothing aloe and hazel extracts that make you feel revitalized. Normally, you get all these items all together for roughly $80, but you can get the Performance Package 3.0 for 20% off using promo code BRAWL with this limited time offer. This is promo code BRAWL BRAWL to get 20% off of the Performance Package 3.0 or any other items on manscaped.com today. Join the Manscaped family, Washington Brawl listeners. Your balls will thank you. Today on Washington Brawl, we talk about this week's matchup against former Washington football coaches Sean McVay and now Kevin O'Connell on the LA Rams. Also the benching of second-year quarterback and former 15th overall pick Dwayne Haskins in favor of Rivera's guy, Kyle Allen. But before we get into it, for those watching, as you can see, we have a special guest today, staff writer for Sports Illustrated Washington, George Carmi. Welcome to the show, man.
What's up, guys? Thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Absolutely, man. It's never a dull moment in the Washington football team world. So we're definitely stoked to get you on because there is plenty to talk about.
100%.
We wouldn't be a Washington football team podcast if we didn't start off the show with talking about the elephant in the room in D.C. and the talk of the town. The Washington football team announced yesterday that Haskins would be benched in favor of former Carolina Panther Kyle Allen. But not only was he benched, it was announced that he will be inactive against the LA Rams this Sunday, with Alex Smith being the backup. Julie Donaldson announced on Twitter that the staff believes that Alex Smith is ready to play, and head coach Ron Rivera says that Kyle Allen will be evaluated by a game-to-game basis. According to PFF, Kyle Allen has 49.7 grade last season as a starter in Carolina, which ranks last amongst all quarterbacks with at least 200 dropbacks. Washington is now on its 30th starting quarterback since 1993. I mean, what a number.
Nuts.
George, do you think that they gave up on Haskins too early? I'm just going to get straight to it.
I do, honestly. This whole offseason, basically, Ron Rivera was talking about building for the future and long-term goals. I think it was actually explicitly stated that we aren't going to chase after cheap wins and go after and put Kyle Allen in and try to get 5 wins a season or 6 wins a season. So ultimately for me, I'm a Haskins guy. I was rooting for Haskins when we got him. I actually went to the draft night event, and I was rooting for him. I wanted him over Brian Burns. Granted, Haskins been put in a really bad situation. Coming in, he basically was drafted by a coach who didn't want him. He was chosen by the owner and Bruce Allen, and he wasn't given a fair shot. Even when he did get the opportunity to go in and play with Bill Callahan, it was a very watered down offense. It was very run heavy and very not really tailored to Haskins' strengths. So I wanted a true offseason to basically let him develop and let him become who he could be. Unfortunately, COVID had different ideas and basically came in. He had no practice, so, no true tape to basically evaluate and to develop himself. So I wanted him to have a fair shot. But unfortunately, it hasn't happened yet. So I think I would rather have had him have more time, but we'll see what happens with the coach, see what happens later.
Yeah, I mean, to me, I look over to other organizations who gave their guys some time. I mean, you got Josh Allen in Buffalo, who's a fringe MVP candidate right now. He was off to a very mediocre start there. He ended up turning around, but that takes time and patience and a coaching staff that truly believes in you, like you were just talking about. I think it's certainly too early, for a coaching staff to do this when they were preaching rebuild. Owen, how did the move make you feel? Do you think it was too early to pull the plug on Haskins?
George really hit it on the nail. He kind of went over the offseason, and I think everyone that was really paying attention throughout the offseason thought that this wasn't going to be a cheap win season. Ron put it out there multiple times, press conferences, press releases, in every way he could. He said, we're not going to go cheap wins unless we really think we can win it all. We're going to try and let our guys develop. So I'm really intrigued as to what changed. I could see Haskins maybe getting benched for a game, second string, right? I could see that.
Yeah.
But for him to drop all the way to third string after having the best game of his career probably so far, it just makes zero sense to me. Even Steven Montez was getting more like work at practice than Haskins was, which I'm actually a big fan of Montez. He's a cool guy, but it just doesn't make sense if you're looking at who you drafted, where you drafted him from, the fact that he's probably been the face of the franchise this offseason and face of the media too. We don't here besides Chase Young and Washington, we don't really have many people that show up in the media that often, except Haskins and Young. And so it doesn't really make sense business-wise for me to just say, okay, go ahead and bench him. There's a lot of questions. There was one thing that really stood out to me. Ben from The Athletic wrote an article that kind of said that he had not been putting in the work the offseason. They tracked how much studying he'd done of film and how much work he had really put in, and that he hadn't been taking it that seriously, which I'm not sure the truth to that. There's been too many leaks for me to truly say, whatever he says is 100% truthful. Yeah, like I can't sit down and say, I've seen Haskins work in videos. I think we all have over the offseason seen Twitter, Instagram, but that's just video. That's just one side of the story.
Yeah, and the narrative is very dependent on who you ask. There's a lot of fingers, it's Dwayne's fault. And then there's a lot of people pointing blame at the coaching staff. D'Angelo Hall, Darren Orlovsky, a lot of Louis Riddick, a lot of major media outlets are criticizing the organization for benching the young quarterback, especially this early. But let's not get it lost in translation here. I like Haskins, George like Haskins, you like Haskins, but compared to other quarterbacks in the league, the ones that you consider franchise quarterback, Haskins definitely wasn't playing well. I rated his performance last week very highly, and he is ranked 30th in the NFL in pass accuracy at 50.4%, according to PFF. But, you also look at Scott Turner's numbers as a play caller, and they're not exactly stellar. In fact, Joe Brady, who took his job over in Carolina, is already outperforming him in even a smaller sample size. Ron Rivera had Dan's full support in the QB change, but how much of Dwayne's problems fall on Scott Turner, George?
I don't know. Right now, I'm a proponent of Scott Turner. I'm kind of rooting for him, and I think that's the one positive I'm trying to take out of Haskins being benched. I think Kyle Allen does know the offense better in theory. Granted, his numbers don't necessarily portray that and get that across. I believe I don't have it all written down. I'm just kind of freestyle off the top of my head. I think Kyle Allen won 4 out of 5 games to kind of start off his career at Turner, and then 1-7 to finish it all off. That's the one counter argument. I know we talked about Haskins and his work ethic. I'm rooting for Haskins. I thought that this offseason, I'll take a step back. Last offseason, the criticism against Haskins was he was disengaged. It wasn't necessarily fully attentive when he wasn't the starter. He was disappointed. He was upset. He felt not loved by Jay Gruden. You can see that from the mannerisms. Watch the film from last year, guys. Take a look at it. They're basically, he's talking to Case Keenum, he's talking to the quarterbacks. We have Kevin O'Connell kind of coaching them up. Dwayne Haskins will kind of be aloof and look in the other direction. It's understandable. If you don't feel loved, if you don't feel embraced, if you don't feel like you're going to play, you're not going to be fully engaged.
Oh.
That's just not me being biased. I've heard that from multiple outlets and read it multiple times as well. So Haskins wasn't fully engaged last year. This year, he did everything right. That's why I'm kind of upset with the benching, because he did put in the work in the offseason. I think Owen mentioned that basically during the offseason, we watched all those films and all those practices. He put in the work.
Yeah.
That's why I'm starting to think like, hey, I don't know what's going on with this whole, he had a bad work ethic thing. I don't know if I buy that. The one thing I do buy in is basically you have to kind of protect the team, right? All offseason, Coach Ron Rivera was talking about team. Even our motto, even our motto now is we have no name but team, Washington football team, right?
Yeah. So
essentially, basically, Haskins is developing. He's not there yet. I love the guy, but he's not there. He had a great game against Baltimore, but it was very watered down. I believe it was 9 slip screens that he basically passed. I think 30% of his passes went past 10 yards. Majority of them were little short dip and dunks, right? Some people argue that it was to counter the pass rush of the Ravens. I truly believe in my heart that it basically was because, yes, the offensive line is weak, but it was a combination. Haskins is a tough time processing. The Ravens were blitzing, and they had to get rid of it quick, right? So we couldn't take shots. So the one thing that I am looking for is, hey, Kyle Allen, he might not be the best quarterback, but I guess the one positive thing I can go for is maybe can process quicker. He might know the first read, second read faster. He can get rid of the ball quicker. So hopefully this is a true assessment of Scott Turner's offense as opposed to what we've been seeing the first couple of weeks. That's my hope and my aspiration, I guess.
Yeah, and
there's one thing, if Parker, if you don't mind, I want to piggyback off of what George said. He said that because he knows the system well, it allows us to kind of to see where our offense is going to be at. But more importantly, he focused on the front office. I'd like to take a step back and focus on the players. Because of how the offense was run under Scott Turner in Carolina and how active CMC was, people really got to see the superstar ability of CMC. Mm-hmm. Here, we can focus more on our players in the offensive line and our receiving core, but more importantly on Gibson. And Gibson's going to get a lot of work while we're working out what's happening with our new quarterback situation. Gibson's going to be the guy. He's going to be our second read. Most of the times, either going to be handoff to him. Maybe he's going to be second, third read. He's going to be an option throughout this entire offense. And so I'm really excited to see what Gibson can do and really see how he looks when he's fully used as the starter and possibly as a franchise option.
And then Owen, just to kind of back that up, sorry to cut you off, Parker, but yeah, Owen, I agree with you, man. I think that's kind of the thought behind Allen coming in. I know people are upset, but the thought behind Allen coming in is, hey, if he can just be serviceable, if he can be an average quarterback and not have his 3 turnovers or taking sacks or rolling out into a sack, basically we can have a true assessment of our offensive line, of our wide receivers, of our running backs. I think that's kind of the goal for Rivera. And, we'll see if it actually happens. Obviously Allen isn't grade A, elite quarterback, but if he can just be average, maybe we can give an honest assessment of what the team truly is, ideally,
Everybody wants the shiny new toy. Everybody wants their first-round draft pick to become their first-round quarterback. I completely understand that. But at the end of the day, Scott Turner and the coaching staff felt like this playbook was being narrowed down because of Haskins. You're running a lot of RPOs, like you said, a lot of passes behind the line of scrimmage, and all of those are due to Dwayne's limitations, not because of this offense's potential or capability. Obviously, they believe they can do more. And I expect them to come out against LA just guns blazing, being a lot more aggressive than they were able to when they had Haskins at the helm. Like I said, Rivera said that him and his staff believes that the situation called for the team to move into a different direction. And his explanation was logical. He also stated that the fans do not see the frustration from the players on the sidelines and that they want to win now, not later. The NFC East is certainly up for grabs. And if it wasn't, in my opinion, this QB decision would be different. And Rivera concurred that. Do you buy into that, George?
I do. I think going back, just taking a small step back, going with Haskins, people think this is the end of the career for Haskins. Okay, we're going to bench him. He's never going to play in Washington again. I'm of the ilk where basically he has 2 more years under contract for us, and we have a 5th-year option for him. So there's always an opportunity for him to come back. If he's a true first-round draft pick, if he's a true leader of men as a quarterback, he's going to take us to heart. He's going to get upset. He's going to get angry. He's going to focus, okay? And hopefully he can basically, if Kyle Allen slips, Dwayne Haskins can come in and basically revive his career. I'm optimistic for that, and I'm rooting for that. I hope people see, the forest outside the woods. You basically see the bigger picture. If you want someone to lead your team, be the face of the organization, if he gets his feelings hurt, that's not who you want to lead your team. So I am rooting for Haskins to basically, revive his career in regard to that. Now, Parker, I'm sorry, what was your actual question? I messed that part up.
Oh, no. Do you believe that if the NFC East wasn't up for grabs, this quarterback change would have happened this quickly?
I don't. I think that this is basically, Owen kind of hit on it. You hit on it too. I think the players are getting frustrated because in the media, the team is being labeled as bad. The offensive line is really bad. The left tackles are really bad. And I know in PFF and Next Gen Stats, they have been getting bad numbers, especially Christian and Wes Martin on the left-hand side. They basically have been, being poor reflected on, especially people say, oh, Haskins doesn't have the weapons, all right? Imagine being a first-round pick and imagine hearing that. You're getting imagine being a skill position player and hearing that. Hey, you stink, and that's why your quarterback isn't great. You're going to get upset. You're going to basically, come on now, right? There's going to be some resentment in the locker room.
Exactly.
I think in addition to that, the NFC East is very weak, and I think we play the Giants twice, the Cowboys, and so we have a pretty we have a soft
4-game stretch down the road.
Yeah, we have soft we have a good 7 games, and we can basically they're up in the air. I think we should beat the Giants. Like maybe I'm biased. I think the Giants are the worst team in the NFL. Like I talked to other people, they say the Giants are awful in my opinion. They average like 12 points a game. We should be able to beat the Giants and sweep them if we can basically play capably. You know.
I don't have Daniel Jones starting at this point.
Sorry, go ahead.
I don't even know how Daniel Jones is starting at this point.
He's got bench this morning.
Because he needs to progress.
Yeah. So whatever. So basically, I think the fact that there is a window to basically maybe sneak into the NFC East, I think that's encouraging. I think Ron, you can't breed culture and preach team culture winning and basically just sacrifice a team for one player. I think that's the rationale.
Yeah, and Ron said that this wasn't an indictment on Haskins. He buttered him up a little bit, said he has an NFL arm, said he didn't have the, like you were speaking of earlier, he didn't have the offseason most quarterbacks need due to COVID. But today, but this was also coming from a coaching staff that was saying that there were going to be no leaks out of Ashburn. Then today happened. There was an article that dropped via the Washington Post saying that Haskins lacked the preparation during the week, and it was evident. Alex was beating Dwayne into the building in the mornings, reportedly. Players were calling him out. Most of the summer, we heard nothing but praise from Rivera on Haskins and his work ethic and et cetera. Of course, he was named team captain. But here we are, week 4, he's being benched, and people are saying that he was never Ron's guy. Do you buy that?
Not necessarily.
I might. I think. Am I frozen? I'm frozen.
I can hear you, bro.
Okay, I'm back. Am I back now?
You're good.
I'm good. Okay, good. Okay, so I might buy that. I think here, this is a little bold prediction in here too. I think that originally Washington's plan was to have Alex Smith as the starting quarterback this year. Then he went down. I think in 4 weeks max, Alex Smith will be starting again at quarterback for Washington. I think he'll take us in the next season too. I think that this offense is going to be built so that we can have a traditional passing leader quarterback here. We're not going to need those run pass options. Haskins was never originally a run pass type of guy. He was always a pocket passer in college. He threw for 50 touchdowns. He wasn't that good on his legs. He wasn't that athletic of a quarterback. This isn't going to be Cam Newton part 2. We're not looking for Cam Newton. We're not looking for Jalen Hurts. We're not looking for Lamar Jackson. We're looking for someone that can put the ball in a receiver's hands, get us some offensive yards, and get us some wins using the running back. I think Alex Smith is the guy to do that. I think Kyle Allen might just be the transition player while we're still testing out Alex Smith. I think that we're not going to get a quarterback in the draft. I honestly think Alex Smith might be the answer to this team right now. I think the answer is on the roster.
He was in 2018. But yeah, like I asked you a minute ago, George, do you believe that Haskins was just never Ron's guy?
It's hard because he didn't draft him, right? So basically, from there, some reports that I have, like, that I've heard over the years and stuff that I've read, was basically Carolina didn't necessarily grade Haskins very high in the first place, right? He wasn't part of their, he wasn't I don't believe even a first round grade for the Carolina Panthers when they drafted Brian Burns instead over Haskins. So I don't think he was in love with Haskins. I think, when you inherit somebody, you basically want to develop them and give them your best shot. But it's hard if you aren't fully invested in someone. And hopefully, from what we're getting so far is that Ron Rivera has the keys to the franchise, right? He's basically trying to build the team in his image. If you didn't pick the guy and you aren't too keen on him and he's not necessarily shining right now, maybe you kind of put him on the back burner and you can try to develop him and try to make him your guy, but you don't owe him anything, right? So I know that's kind of sad to say, but Ron he's not attached to Haskins. He didn't pick him. So that's kind of the deeper message here. And I don't know if you guys caught there was a little leak that came out, I believe, from the team as well. I read it last year. It's kind of funny that some people are kind of hearing it now. But when Haskins was disengaged last year and wasn't part of the team, basically every player gets an iPad. It's basically like a playbook where they can basically watch film and kind of log hours into what their film study. Haskins had by far one of the lowest numbers in minutes for the entire team.
Oh man.
Yeah, I don't know if you heard that at all. You look it up and go on Twitter later on today. Basically, there were definitely reports about it. I think it was.
I thought that was this offseason. Was that last offseason?
That was last season. It might also have leaked into this season, but I heard about it last year. Like I'm in a group chat with a bunch of like Redskin writers and stuff like that. We talked about it. And I was like, dude, you guys don't remember that? And then we started having a conversation. Yes, like it happened last year too. So basically, I think last year he was just over it, right? He was like, Gruden doesn't like me. I'm not even playing. Like it was like, I don't know if you guys remember, but like it was like the game Gruden got fired. It was against the Patriots, and Gruden was like, you know what? I'm out of here. I'm gonna sort Colt McCoy over Dwayne Haskins. I'm like, for lack of a better word, I'm gonna give this organization a middle finger, and I'm gonna dip out of here. Here's Colt McCoy and put him in. And Haskins is like, what's going on here? And if you gotta go through all of that, you're not gonna want to be on the team, man. So I think Haskins was given a rough love last year. He wasn't set up for success last year, and unfortunately, it's continuing this year.
And one thing that Ron Rivera did that Jay Gruden definitely didn't was he gave Haskins a fair shot. He gave him a chance to be a leader. He gave him a chance. Maybe they cut it off prematurely, but he did more for. If this is it for Dwayne Haskins, which a lot of people think it is, I think he did way more for Dwayne Haskins as a quarterback than Jay Gruden ever gave him. But a lot of people say there's a lot more going on here, and I honestly can't fault them for saying that. I mean, you look around the NFC East. No other quarterback is burning the world down. I was just talking about Daniel Jones, and a lot of people think the benching is premature. Haskins wasn't even taking reps during practice the day it happened. I mean, he's sitting there with his arms folded, not taking a snap. Like Owen was talking about earlier, Steven Montez was taking snaps.
Yeah.
So the reality is, though, man, sometimes things just don't work out. I mean, ask Josh Rosen, ask EJ Manuel, ask Paxton Lynch. None of those guys got a full season as a starter before the team that drafted them moved on. Before we move on to Kyle Allen, do you guys think this is the last time we see Dwayne Haskins play quarterback for the Washington football team? I know George kind of he didn't think it was, but Owen, what do you think? I'll go with you first.
No. I think that he's not the franchise's guy moving forward. I think benching him on week 5, that's not a franchise guy. You can't make an argument anymore. That argument has been the door shut. However, I think that Ron, knowing the guy that Ron is, he's going to give him an opportunity again, a shot again when he has the chance. If Ron Rivera is not I'm a butter you up type coach. He's I will yell and I'll tell you that you are a complete dog. Like that's not the coach he is. Yeah. And so if Ron Rivera tells the media that a quarterback has NFL arm talent, I think he means it. Absolutely. I think he's going to realize, I think he's going to give him another shot to prove that he can make the right reads, that he can go in a game and make the right choices. There's been plenty of quarterbacks out there that have NFL arm talent, but have not been able to carry the rest of the package. I think that time is one of those things that teaches that, but our organization right now is not one of those organizations that can give you time to get disciplined in that. We're trying to move at a faster pace with everything's new here. So we can't just discipline a quarterback along the way. So I think Ron's going to give him a shot to answer your question, but I don't think he's going to be the starter moving forward.
Yeah, I just think Haskins has already been through too much to not at least flinch when someone lifts their leg, and he's got like a wounded puppy mentality at this point. It's definitely going to hurt his confidence. I don't see him being our franchise quarterback. I was listening to a 50 Gut blog podcast earlier. They said that best case scenario now is rest in peace Tavares Jackson. Maybe Dwayne turns into a Tavares Jackson type. I mean, making it in this league isn't easy, man. It's not for everybody. NFL, in my opinion, stands for not for long. But George, I know you answered earlier, but what's your final answer? Do you see Haskins? You think it's time of DC's run out?
I don't think the time in DC is over yet. I think this year is going to be a carousel. I think this year is going to be – it might get kind of ugly, honestly. It depends on how Kyle Allen plays. I think Kyle Allen will definitely get some playing time this year. I think Alex Smith may get some playing time as well. I am worried about that, though, because I don't want to see him get injured again. I believe there is some sort of like injury clause as well. Like if he is healthy at the beginning of the year next season, we can basically release him and be free of like $16 million from the salary cap. So basically, it will behoove us to basically make sure he's safe and make sure he's protected. Like, why roll him out there and break his leg again and basically have us on the hook for all that money? So basically, I don't want Alex Smith to play anymore. I hope he doesn't play anymore. Like, I love the guy, but basically become a QB coach, help out with our team, some sort of fashion in the front office. I do think Haskins will get more reps again for Washington this season. I do think he'll play again for us this year. In regard to long-term prospects, like a franchise quarterback, I don't know about that. I do think, though, Haskins is the type of quarterback, he could thrive in this league. I'm not ready to end his career. I just think he's very similar to believe it or not, Jared Goff. He needs to be in an ideal situation. He needs a pure pocket. He needs an innovative coach. He needs somebody to basically give him opportunities to get rid of the ball quickly. And if he's kind of harnessed and insulated that way, he could also produce like Jared Goff. I could see him getting like 25, 30 touchdowns a season, 10, 15 interceptions, but it's like ideal situation. I'm sorry if I'm going on a tangent, but like a player like Haskins is kind of becoming like sort of like faded in this league. We're starting to see more of a shift towards mobile quarterbacks. Haskins is a pure passer, but he can't create on his own. And with, outside linebackers running 4.3s now, taking Montez Sweat's a specimen. Jace Young's a specimen. The guys are running down. They're better athletes than Dwayne Haskins. Basically having that limits him. And I think the new wave is those Kyler Murray types and, Lamar Jackson types and, all these different mobile quarterback types.
And if he can't bring mobility to the table, he has to be able to grasp those next level concepts. And it sounds to me like he needs to be looking at that tablet a lot more than he was in that report last year that you were talking about. This is my last thing about Dwayne Haskins. I got to speak my piece. I got to get this out there. If they felt this way about Dwayne Haskins from jump, why start him? Why not go sign a Cam Newton? Why not draft him like out of the draft? Why not go get your guy, Ron? If it's to appease Dan Snyder, then you've already gone against exactly what everybody is glad you're here for, and that is to question Dan. That is to go against Dan's decision-making. That is to do things your way. So it just makes me wonder, what if, what if we had that number 2 overall pick? Don't get me wrong. In hindsight 2020, I'm glad we have Chase Young. I'm ecstatic that he is a member of the Washington football team. But if you have your guy that you want, go out and get your guy. Don't sit here and try to buy time to appease anybody. That's not going to change the culture. That's not going to make anything better for the Washington football team. I feel like Rivera's contradicted himself already a few times very early in his time in Washington, and I hope that isn't something that continues. But on the other side of the quarterback conversation is Kyle Allen. Ron Rivera said this team is tired of losing for over a decade, and they've been kicked around enough. But the thing it's just audacious to me for him to stand at that podium and tell Washington football team fans that Kyle Allen gives us a better chance to win. I saw this guy in camp. George, I know you saw this guy in camp. Oh, and I know you saw he played in camp. He wasn't burning the world down. Wasn't making many headlines. Do you guys see Kyle Allen outperforming Dwayne Haskins? I mean, I don't think anybody's expecting a playoff berth at this point. George, I'll start with you.
Phew, that's a deep question. So Kyle Allen, I don't think he's going to set the world on fire. I think what we're looking for with Kyle Allen is going to be a game manager. We've heard this story before. Like, I don't know how long. I'm sure you guys have been wrestling fans, Washington football team fans your entire life. We've heard this before. Mike Shanahan had John Beck. I don't know how old you guys are. Steve Spurrier had Danny Werfel all the way back in the day. Jay Gruden had Colt McCoy. Everybody has their guy that they believe in. So I'm kind of jaded at this point. I'm not buying in fully to Kyle Allen. I don't see him lighting the world on fire and resurrecting his career, becoming a Gardner Minshew, and basically NFC Player of the Week. I don't see that happening. The one thing that I am hopefully looking for with Allen is that basically he's just a facilitator, but it's a point guard. It's like run the offense, don't make mistakes, throw for 200 yards, throw for maybe 2 touchdowns, no picks. Like that's kind of what I'm looking for with Kyle Allen. If he can do that for 4 or 5 games, I do think our defense is basically good enough to keep us in most games, especially in the NFC East. And I'm a love with Antonio Gibson, guys. I'm sure you guys are too. He's upticking, looking pretty good. Between him and McLaurin, we have 2 playmakers. Hopefully someone else will step up, maybe Isaiah Wright. But, we're kind of that's what I'm looking for. I don't think he's going to light the world on fire now.
Owen, what are your expectations for Kyle Allen? I mean, I know Ron Rivera literally said, we will find out what he'll do as a starter. But what are your expectations for Kyle Allen as QB1?
I think George hit it on the nail again. Like, literally, you can't expect this guy to be anything more than probably what Nick Foles is going to be. At maximum. I think Nick Foles is the best pro comparison you can get for him. I think that's just – he's going to be a system run, a decent, serviceable, I will make throws, maybe win you a game quarterback. That's what he is. He's not going to be a MVP candidate. He's not going to be an offensive player of the year. He's not going to be a comeback player of the year. He's not going to be mentioned in any NFL award ever. That's not what he's going to do. Maybe he can be a Nick Foles and win us the Super Bowl and the only game he plays. That would be cool. But that's never. I'm not expecting that to happen. He's going to help the other players he's going to help the coaches view what the other players can do. He's going to help see what the offensive line can do with all their young guys up there. Not just going to have to pass block. Maybe they're going to get some option plays in the run. Maybe we're going to have a guard run out and start getting some blocks. That would be cool. See how athletic our offensive line is. I'd love to see that. Maybe get some Gibson. I would love to see what Gibson can do. I'd love to see what Peyton Barber can do. I think we've had a very limited role with our offense so far. It's been very watered down. It's not been high powered. It's not been athletic. It's not been elite. I think with a guy who knows the system and knows the game clock and knows how to run an NFL game like Haskins hasn't been able to show yet, it's just gonna let us see what we have right now and maybe what we need going in the offseason, because we have a good amount of cap still. So it's just gonna help us view. He's not gonna be a franchise quarterback.
Those moments that you look for Haskins, those big games, those big wins, Kyle Allen had those last season in Carolina. That, like George was talking about, they got off to a hot start. He was 4-0 as a starter to start off, said 7 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. I think almost 1,000 yards in that span. Had kind of a sloppy finish to the year, 17 touchdowns, 16 interceptions, and had some major ball security issues, which definitely is something I'm keeping an eye on, very Daniel Jones-esque. We have then, of course, traded for him the offseason. Allen served as a backup in Carolina. He said that he was thrown into the fire when he did have to come in last season. Then he was demoted to a backup, of course, when he came over here with Dwayne Haskins being named starter, captain, all that jazz. Scott Turner said that having Allen in doesn't necessarily open up the playbook more than it would with Haskins. What do you guys think that Allen can do that Haskins could not for this offense? George, I'll start with you.
I think what Allen can do is basically be more on time and more paced. I think what I read earlier and what I've been researching was basically Haskins. They kind of threw out the 5-step drop and the 7-step drop for him, because basically he would take a step back, he would try to process, but basically his processing was a tad bit slow. In this new offense, guys, it's his second coordinator, second coach in his second season. 4 games in, no true preseason. So he would hesitate a little bit. He was getting, gun shy, getting a little frazzled by being attacked by the weakness of the offensive line. I think Kyle Allen will throw it anticipation, will, maybe hit McLaurin when he's turning for a slant, as opposed to, receiving it as he was with, as he was from Haskins. One thing I also was doing research and I found was wide receivers, Haskins was just a tad bit off target. He had a beautiful arm, strong arm, right? But basically his balls weren't necessarily catchable. He put a lot of velocity on them. I don't know if you guys just, watch the film. Logan Thomas would make a 7-yard hitch. They'll make a bullet. If they could jump back and kind of catch it like a zip into him. It wasn't necessarily a easy catchable ball. And basically, or it might be slightly behind the wide receiver when he's slanting. Maybe Kyle Allen hits him a little bit in the front, kind of get him a little bit going. This little minor tweaks might make the offense look slightly more efficient. And then finally, I am going to put a little caveat, and I am worried. I don't know if you guys know this, but Haskins took all the first team reps all offseason. So this is some of the first time Allen's going to be on the field against, a foreign opponent with Terry McLaurin and Thomas and Gibson. He's had receiver drills, but he hasn't necessarily practiced heavily with the first team. So that'll be interesting.
Yeah. Owen, what are some things that you think Allen can bring to the table that Haskins couldn't? I mean, there are things there. No matter how much you like Dwayne Haskins, he was extremely limited in what he could do. The playbook was not – they clearly didn't open it up for him. And like George was just talking about, just the accuracy to certain receivers and just little technical things like dropbacks. What are some things that you believe that Allen could do that Haskins couldn't?
I think both of y'all just kind of hit it. Again, I don't know how many times I'm going to say hit it on the nail tonight, but apparently it's going to be a lot. You guys are killing it. The Haskins hasn't been able to throw that well of a catchable ball. I think Thomas is honestly going to have a better year now that Haskins isn't going to be the quarterback, because Kyle Allen will give it to him. He'll put it right in the chest, but not too powerful, just a nice toss. Haskins isn't polished in how he needs to throw the ball. He has the arm, he just doesn't know how to control it. It's kind of like whenever, I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with shooting a shotgun, whenever you first pick it up and shoot it, the kick, you don't know how to handle it. Over time, you kind of know how to do that. Haskins had the arm power. He just didn't know how to handle the kick. He didn't know where to put the ball just right. He didn't know how hard to toss it. He didn't know if it needed to be airballed, if it would need to be a bullet. He didn't understand this type of stuff.
And too raw.
Yeah, he was just his arm talent was just too raw. Those little things that Kyle Allen has already kind of had to figure out will help our offense run better. So yeah, I don't know if that answers your question. That's the best way
I can speak for everybody when I say I do not want Kyle Allen to fail. I was actually impressed by some of the flashes that he showed when he had that hot start last year. And I do agree with Ron's assessment of him when he said that Kyle Allen is a game manager with big playability. And I think that he's shown that. Best case scenario, he plays to that level that Alex Smith did in 2018. Funny part is you have Alex Smith backing him up. To me, it's obvious that this is a bridge to 11 returning on the field. But in his first start, in his first week working with the ones like Georgia, speaking of, Kyle Allen has an intriguing matchup, and we're finally getting to it. The Washington football team will reunite with former coaches Kevin O'Connell, who I firmly should still believe he should still be on the staff.
Everyone should.
Sean McVay, the brainchild of the NFL, and the LA Rams this Sunday, October 11th at FedEx Field at 1 p.m. The Rams, despite being 3-1, are only 7-point favorites in the matchup. And despite what a lot of people will tell you, the Washington football team has way more of a chance in this contest than most think. All of the Rams' wins this season have been against the awful NFC East. They beat the Cowboys by 3, beat the Eagles pretty handedly, but it was definitely close for a while. So did we. The Giants last week, 17-9 in the Jalen Ramsey revenge game. Fingers crossed he doesn't play. I don't know how nobody got suspended for that fight. Nobody. Like there was no punishment for that Golden Tate fight at all. I don't know what's going on there, but point is they're beating very mediocre teams. Practically the faces in the franchise and Chase Young and Terry McLaurin both were full participants in practice today. Cooper Kupp accounted for a majority of the team's offense last week, and a huge reception he had late. And Jared Goff's big plays come few and far between. I know George mentioned earlier Haskins is a good comp for him, and Jared Goff definitely struggled early in his career. But the Rams have a top 10 rushing attack, and that is something that the Washington football team lacks in being able to stop with their run defense. What do you guys see being the X factor in stopping the Rams offense? Do you think Chase Young's return will play a huge factor in this? George, I'll start with you.
I do think Chase Young, if he does play, is going to be a huge factor. Their offensive line's solid, but it isn't elite, isn't the best of the best. I think it is going to be if we can stop the run. Like, I don't know how much you've been looking into this matchup already. Sean McVay, we had our firsthand perspective of him. He's a great offensive coordinator. What he ran last year was predominantly 11 personnel, one tight end, one running back, and he wanted to be multiple with his offensive attack. He wants to hit you. He wants to run the ball down your throat, run it, then play action on first down. He's big on play action on first down, catch you off guard, take a big strike. That's what he wants to do. He has a pretty good three-headed attack. He has Darrell Henderson. He has Malcolm Brown, and I think Cam Akers is going to be available this week and come back. So their running backs are pretty capable and are pretty serviceable as well. If we can stop that running game and make them one-dimensional, I'm not necessarily afraid of Jared Goff. If Jared Goff is dropping back 20 to 30 times, having to win the game on his own, I do think our pass rush can basically get to him. I think our pass rush can basically frazzle him. And I'm actually pretty happy. Like, I was worried about our cornerbacks going into this, into the season. I was like, you know what, like Kendall Fuller, Ronald Darby, Jimmy Moreland, the people's champ. I was like, you know what, are these guys going to be okay? But they're getting picks and they're creating turnovers. They're actually doing pretty well. Our biggest concerns are safety play, honestly, on both of them. Collins and Apke, to be honest with you. Put some pressure on Goff, limit the running game. I think my bigger concern is going to be our offense going against their defense. But I don't want to take everything for you guys. So I guess Owen, go ahead.
So hear me out real quick. I just heard you mention safeties, and you know what you're talking about. And so I want to get your opinion on this little idea I've had of Parker. Eric Berry.
I know where he's going with this. I already know where he's going with this.
Eric Berry.
Okay.
What's your opinion on that? I think it would be a good pickup.
I love Eric Berry, but I think he's at the end of his career now. I think he basically, he had the major cancer scare. He's a lot older. I believe he had a major leg injury too. I don't know off the top of my head. You guys kind of catch me off guard. I don't know if Achilles.
He brought it up to me.
What happened?
I said he caught me off guard. He brought it up to me. I mean, to me, where my head was in that situation is if Earl Thomas is a free agent, Eric Berry's probably going to be a free agent too. That's kind
of the two. I'd rather have Earl Thomas, to be honest with you. I like it. Eric Berry. My favorite safeties. I loved Ed Reed growing up. I loved Cam Chancellor growing up. Eric Berry was one of my favorite safeties. I loved him, but I think he's kind of like past his prime now. Earl Thomas is a true free safety. I think that'd be great with our strong safety with Landon Collins. Like, having Landon Collins play in the box, which is probably his strength, and Earl Thomas being the center fielder. But Earl Thomas, man, he's like, from what I'm gathering, he's like a nightmare in the locker room. He doesn't get along with anybody. And if the Seahawks and the Ravens, like in my opinion, like two of the most stable, best franchises in the league, don't want you there. And the Texans, like, I don't know if you guys heard this, the Texans players are like, don't add Earl Thomas to our team. Like, he was going to sign with the Texans, but they refused him to be on the team. That's a red flag, and we don't want that. If we're building culture in DC, we don't want him here either. So I don't know. That's kind of my perspective on
it. They hate Bill O'Brien there. And that was right.
Got fired, man. It's the worst. Yeah.
We don't want that guy there. Over to the offensive side of the ball. You kind of beat me to it. The Washington football team isn't even scoring 20 points a game right now, guys, and that's unacceptable. That will not cut it against a well-coached Rams team. You have a quarterback getting his first start of the year, so you want to take some pressure off him. So you obviously feed the second highest rated running back in week 4, according to PFF. One, Antonio Gibson, a guy you guys have already touched on a little bit. Speaking of touches, he had 17 last week and became the first Washington running back since Alfred Morris to score a touchdown in each of his last 3 games. What are some things that the offense can do to succeed against a stout unit with guys like Aaron Donald and Jalen Ramsey on it? Owen, I guess I'll start with you.
Okay, so what do we need to do to succeed? We need to kind of run the exact same thing we did last week with Kyle, with Dwayne Haskins with Kyle Allen. I want to see Gibson get the ball a lot. I want to see him get it in the shallow. I want to see what he can do with the yak. Aaron Donald's going to tear up our offensive line. There's no doubt about that. Aaron Donald is the best defensive player this millennia. I'll say that. He's amazing. There's no one is going to fight me on that. So against our offensive line that's kind of in shambles right now with Schweitzer as our guard, which he's done good. He went up against Campbell and played pretty well. But Aaron Donald is
Aaron Donald.
Yeah, there's
a maniac.
Aaron Donald.
Awesome.
He's going to tear up our line. We need to get the ball out quickly. We need to get the ball in a place that needs to be. If this is a week for Haskins not to play because he needs to work on his getting the ball out quickly, this is the week. We need the ball out quick. Our offensive line is going to be destroyed. Gibson's going to have a week. That's what we need to do in offense. We need to feed Gib. We need to hit the wide receivers slow. Yak is the name of the game.
I'm cool with that, Mr. Carmi.
I agree. It's got to be creative. I think Aaron Donald's just going to go nuts. It's going to be fun to watch, but also sad to watch at the same time because we want Washington to ultimately win, but it's just going to be awesome. Just watching him just throw our players around. Well, I think he's going to move up and down our line. He's going to be facing both of our Wes's. He's going to hit Wes Schweitzer and Wes Martin and tear him up. It is going to be a one-man wrecking crew, and it'll be interesting to see. I'm sure they're planning for it. They're going to basically try to counter it. I do expect a lot of screens, hopefully a couple quick, hot routes, right? Basically let the defensive line come at you, throw it right over top of their head, and basically hit them with a hot route real quick to basically counteract. One thing that I'm curious about, obviously Jalen Ramsey is a monster. Is he going to take away Terry McLaurin? That might be the game plan. He is, the shutdown corner, a true shutdown corner. It's funny. I was doing some research for my article that's coming up, and I was talking about how Ramsey's being bored. He's actually bored this season because nobody throws it to him. They throw it to him like 1 or 2 times a game, and he's just sitting there. He's like, you know what? Like, I'm shutting down wide receivers so much, they're afraid of me now. So what the Rams are doing is they're actually like moving him away from like his true cornerback position, putting him in the slot, having cover tight ends. Like last week against the Giants, Evan Engram is probably, one of their best offensive threats. He had them covering tight ends. It's like, traveling there to cover the tight end, basically shut him down. So, basically they have a first-year defensive coordinator. Is he going to appease? If you're going to stop Washington, right? It's Terry McLaurin. So is just Jalen Ramsey going to cover the entire game and just blanket him, or is he going to get bored and mess around and start covering other people? We'll see what happens. So it's going to be interesting to watch.
Yeah, and Jalen Ramsey to me is probably the most physical cornerback in the NFL. I mean,
fight somebody. He's gonna fight somebody. He's crazy.
Speaking of fights,
yeah,
I was talking about the fight earlier with Golden Tate. Everybody knows they got some baby mama drama. I think it was actually family drama going on over there. When I was watching the tape, like I said, they still haven't done anything about the suspension. So the NFL, if you can hear me, when I was watching that tape, I saw Jared Goff, I saw Aaron Donald, I saw Jalen, I saw all those guys throwing punches. They all need to be suspended for at least 1 week. Period.
I agree 100%.
I don't want those guys on Sunday. Period.
I agree.
We're now at the part of the show where we give our bold predictions for this Sunday's matchup, and I'm gonna throw an extra little twist on it. One that we're gonna have to hold ourselves accountable for this. People are gonna hear it. People are gonna bookmark it. People are gonna remember it. So, who do you have winning, and what will Kyle Allen's stat line be in his?
Oh my goodness. Okay, who's going first?
I'll go first. I'll go first. Why not?
What I just
Kyle Allen's stat line. Here it is for you. Ready? 1 touchdown, 0 interceptions, 177 yards. That's my stat line.
Okay.
For Kyle Allen.
And who do you have winning the game, and what is your score?
I have Rams 21-14. I think it's going to be a close game. It's a traditional game. Feels kind of basic vanilla score, but I think that's what it's going to be. And my bold prediction is Peyton Barber gets a touchdown.
That's a bold prediction. He got 2 week 1.
Yes, and it's now week 5, and he hasn't really seen the field since then. So it's
and running into a brick wall. I was dying on Sunday in that play in Baltimore. I was laughing my ass off. I know you
just let me. Okay, how about this? There's not a fumble from a running back.
See, that's not good. It's either Peyton Barber has 2 touchdowns or nothing.
I'm gonna say P, by the way. I wish we still had him.
Oh God, man!
Oh my goodness, yeah.
Just triggered me. Okay, so Owen's bold prediction is that Peyton Barber, the red zone running back, is going to score a touchdown.
Okay, I'll take it back. Isaiah Wright. Isaiah Wright
touchdown.
Get 75 yards and a touchdown.
Okay, that's bold. That's something that
There you go.
Okay, perfect. George, got to go to you next.
All right, so let's start off with the score. Oh man, I think we're actually going to be competitive, believe it or not. I think the Rams are going to win. I think we're going to be competitive. I think we're going to have a little uptick basically in our offense, but nothing too crazy. So I'm thinking 24-17. It's going to be like one of those games where we are kind of hanging around. We're going to score one last touchdown to make it look better than what it was. I think it's going to be 24-10 most of the game. And we're going to score a touchdown, make it 24-17. We might have a chance, but then it's going to basically lose at the end. I think that's how the game's going to play out.
And
Allen predictions. I think he's going to break 200 yards. Let's say 221 passing.
Okay.
221 passing, 2 touchdowns, 1 turnover. I still don't know if it's going to be a fumble or a pick. It's definitely going to turn it over on Sunday for sure.
Close.
And then bold prediction, man, that's a tough one, man. I have no idea. Give me a second. I'll come back with the bold prediction. I want to hear you first, Parker. Let me process real quick.
Okay, no, that's fine. I think Kyle Allen is going to finish 23 for 41, 267 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 1 interception. I think the Washington football team loses 17-24. Like you guys said, I think this is a game where we're going to stick around, but I think at the end it's going to come down to a big defensive stop for the Rams. I guess my bold prediction, just because it's oddly specific, is I feel like I think the game's going to end with a walk-off strip sack by Aaron Donald. I think the Rams are going to barely escape this one with the win, and I think their defense is going to pull it out for them right at the end. I think Kyle Allen has a good first start. I think Kyle Allen does a lot of things that Dwayne Haskins couldn't do, runs a lot of different concepts Dwayne Haskins doesn't do, and I think that the return of the deep ball is imminent, and I think that it returns against the LA Rams.
Gotcha.
So what's your bold prediction?
My bold predictions aren't that bold. That's the problem. I think Jonathan Allen's going to have a big game. I think he's going to be a great run stopper and a big factor in the game.
That's good enough.
I think Montez Sweat's also going to die. I'm a big fan of Montez Sweat. I think he's going to continue to shine. It's going to be him. I think he might be our leading sack getter by the end of the year. I know everyone loves Chase Young, but maybe that's my bold season prediction. I'm rooting for Montez Sweat. He's turning it up, man. He's looking good, in my opinion.
So Jonathan Allen has a career day. I honestly like that one. I think that's the most likely of everything all of us have said, to be honest with you.
All right, cool.
I like that. But that is all the time we have for today, guys. George, thank you so much for coming on, man. It was bound to happen eventually, and thank you for giving us your time.
I had a really good time, guys. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, man. Let people know where they can find you.
All right, guys. So I'm a staff writer for Sports Illustrated. SI.com. Take a look at me there. Just type in George Carmi or just type in Washington football. You can find me there. I'm also a writer for Full Press Coverage. I'm the editor there. We have a great team. Nathan Coleman, Al Lepore. We have, Burgundy Bros podcast. We have a whole bunch of people that are underneath us. We work together. We're grinding hard, guys. Come out and check us out. Reach out to us. We're all good people. We'll have a good conversation with you. So go Washington, and we'll talk to you guys soon.
Thanks, man. Can't wait to have you on again.
Of course, man.
If you're still with us, we appreciate you as always. Make sure you give us a follow on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and all the social medias at Washington Brawl. Leave us a 5-star rating and review wherever you listen to us on. And if you're having trouble finding this and other episodes of Washington Brawl, use our Linktree app so you can find us on all platforms. Also, that Linktree will lead you to thebrawlnetwork.com, where you can find the latest from Washington Brawl lead writer Dave Operman, and you can find some Washington Brawl merchandise so you can rep your boys. Make sure you check out this episode and other episodes of Washington Brawl on the Brawl Network's official YouTube channel as well. Subscribe there, do yourself a favor, and also check out our exclusive Twitch series on the Brawl Network, the Washington Brawl Madden 21 Game of the Week. We will come to you guys after the game on Sunday against the LA Rams with another new episode of Washington Brawl. But until then, hug your Haskins sexuals around you. Everything is going to be all right. This has been the Washington Brawl Podcast, presented to you by the Brawl Network.